Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration, and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now, here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where I feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Joe Polish, Roland Frazier, and Kevin Nations. This episode is brought to you by my company, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you to protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 27 years. So if you're a company that has software, a product, or a design you want protected, go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are amazing free resources for learning about the patent process. And you can email my team at welcome@goldsteinpc.com to explore if it's a match to work together. You could also check out the book I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. I have with me here today Rondi Lambeth. Rondi is known as America's credit expert. He's the founder of Fortress Credit Pro. He's also an award-winning TV and radio show host, a best-selling author, and has been seen on ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, NBC, and also on 2,300 podcasts. He's spoken in front of tens of thousands of people on stages all across the world, including Harvard. He is the host of the School of Wealth podcast and founder of Fortress University. He's also a military veteran. Thank you for your service, and has served as a firefighter for 15 years. He's helped consumers eliminate more than $50 million in debt and helped them to get mortgage ready in less than 90 days. I'm very pleased to welcome here today my friend, Rondi Lambeth. Welcome, Rondi.
Hey, thank you so much, Rich. It's good to be alive, isn't it?
It's fantastic. Yes. Thank you for presencing that, because, a lot of times we can just get lost in the details of what we're working on and forget just the gratitude for the moment. So thanks for bringing that.
There's no such thing as a bad day as long as you wake up.
Absolutely. And here we are.
Yeah.
The rest is gravy, as they say, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, you're an expert in credit, and you've developed some amazing and useful tools for people in dealing with their credit. So kind of what got you interested in credit, and kind of how did you get into all of that? What was the inspiration?
The inspiration behind it was I had just got off a shift in the fire department. I had turned on my phone and it blew up with messages from my mom, asking me to call her. And she said my little brother Zeke had been in an accident. Zeke was also a firefighter. So, I called her and find out and inquire about the accident that my brother had. And that's when I found out my little brother, 21 years old, shot and killed himself. And, he's being harassed by collection companies day and night. He's behind on payments. And that's what really got me to dive into the credit repair space. Every year, 5,000 people kill themselves, and they leave notes. So about 50,000 people kill themselves every year. About 10% or 5,000 of them actually leave notes, and they reference money or credit in their suicide notes. And so as a firefighter, it brought a lot of guilt, because here I am, firefighter of the year on the busiest rescue in Denver metro area, saving lives every day of complete strangers. And yet my little brother is struggling financially and couldn't even come to me and tell me about it. And I had left him when he was about 2 years old. When I was 15, I decided that I had enough of living with my parents, my mom and my stepdad. And so I left home. My stepdad used to beat the crap out of us all the time and would torture us. We got our food out of a dumpster. We grew up not too far from where I live now in Southwest Idaho, in a one-room shack, no running water, no electricity, being taught that money was the root of all evil. The government was bad. Rich people were bad. Education was stupid. And that entire mentality that money was bad. And so I left home at 15 and ended up in John Day, Oregon, Eastern Oregon, which is where I was born. That's where my dad's side of the family was. And I went to work for a guy named Wally Williams, making $2.35 an hour. Those are the days, right? Remember that when minimum wage was $2.35? And so I went to work for Wally, making $2.35 an hour. I'd work for him for a couple of weeks, and it was enough. It was enough for me to get some food. And, I wasn't having to buy it out of a dumpster anymore, at least, or get it out of a dumpster. So I'm 15 years old, working for Wally, and basically washing his cars. And I vacuumed his house, and I was kind of like a personal assistant where I mowed the lawn, I vacuumed and washed cars. And he was a friend of the family, so I think he felt sorry for me, so he gave me a job. And then one day he come up and he said, "How would you like to have more of a full-time position for me or with me?" And I said, "I'd like that." And he goes, "I'll pay you $1,000 a month." At the time, I'm making $250, $300 a month at the most. If I was working full-time, I was going to high school still. So $1,000 a month was a lot of money for me back then. And so I'm like, absolutely, I'll do whatever it takes. And so we walked down this really long hallway, get to the end of the hallway, went into a room I'd never been in before, and went to open the door. And he goes, "Are you sure you're willing to do anything that it takes for me?" And I thought about it, and I said, what can I got to lose? I'm 15 years old. I'm making a couple $100 a month. I'm surfing couches, in and out of foster care. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. He opens the door, Rich, and in front of me is a guy that is clearly dead. He's laying on a table. He's got a bullet hole in the head. He's got dried blood coming down his face. And that's what I got into. And that was the day that I become a assistant to the funeral director and embalmer in Grant County, Oregon, or Grant County. And that was the day I become a funeral director. So I spent the next 4 years doing autopsies, embalming people, running funerals. And it was one of the funnest jobs I've ever had in my entire life. I'm 15 years old. I'm able to drive expensive cars. I'm making money. And back then, I actually got my driver's license when I was 14 years old. In Idaho, you could get it at 14, and they recognized it in Oregon at 15. And that's when I started learning about money and credit. And I remember Wally would teach me things about money. He'd teach me things about taxes. And he used to tell me, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it matters how much money you keep. And you need to figure out how to keep more of your money. And that's when I started learning about the tax code and real estate. And I remember his wife used to come in every Friday to get her allowance. And that's what he called it. And it was her per diem that he would take several $1,000s a week out of his company, give it to her in an envelope full of cash. And that was her per diem for the week. And so, and I would ask him, why do cash? And well, I can do cash because then we don't have to pay taxes on it and, the whole thing. So that's when I started. That's a long answer to your question on when I got started in the game of money and credit.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite a story. And it's, in a sense, I guess it's kind of what got you into credit, and it's also kind of what made you who you are.
Yeah, and how I got to the fire department was after doing this for 4 years, all through high school. I started seeing on the scenes, because we were the first responders. Is they would call us when they suspected that someone had died at a car accident, and I started seeing how people admired the firefighters, and on my side as a funeral director, everybody was sad. And, yeah, they depended on us to help them through the most trying day of their life, but I kind of wanted more. And up until that point, I never even thought about being a fireman. My dad was a firefighter. My grandfather was a firefighter, but I never really even thought about it. I was too focused on how am I going to get my next meal that I didn't really think about going to college and that whole thing that most people go through. And so one day I was on a call and they were cutting this guy out of a car, and unfortunately he had died. And I decided, you know what, I want to be a firefighter. So I went home, I sold my house. You know, at this time I was 19 years old. I already owned real estate, sold my house in Oregon, moved to Denver, Colorado because they were hiring, and got accepted to the fire academy. And that's how I became a fireman. I put myself through the fire academy. Took me some time to get hired with the paid fire department. So then I was a garbage man for 5 years until I finally got hired at the paid department. And then I had all that time at the fire station to learn about money and credit and really dive into it. And it wasn't until my little brother shot and killed himself that I really said, you know, I think I'm going to go into this full time. And I started as a nonprofit. And we operated as a nonprofit for about a year. And then we just had thousands of people coming to us, literally thousands. And I decided, you know what, I think I can make a business out of this. And so that's what I did in 2007. And now 15 years later, it's still going strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great example of how you can take something that you're passionate about, that is really about serving people, and turn it into a business. You can create value for yourself. And, you know, I mean, like one of the first things you said was about this notion of money being bad. And sometimes people have that as like, hey, you know, I can't both help people and make money for myself. But really, that's what entrepreneurs do, is we find things that people value out in the world. And when people value something, they're willing to pay for it. And so we get rewarded for giving them what they want. So I think it's just a great lesson there. You initially started out with the notion like, hey, this should be a nonprofit. And then eventually you said, we're helping lots of people. We could help more people by turning it into a business. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah. And that's really what it was I need to hire some people. I need to charge for it so I can help more people. Yeah. And I turned that passion into profit, you know, and we still do a lot. We in fact have a scholarship program for people that can't afford to fix their credit. We call it the Zeke scholarship. That was my little brother's name, was Zeke. And, you know, we don't advertise that because some people will take advantage of it. But if we meet with someone and they just can't afford to hire us, we essentially give them the scholarship, and then we fix their credit absolutely free of charge. And it works really well.
That's awesome. And so in addition to working directly with people, and so, you know, in general, you can help people by providing a done for you service. But I guess you also figured out that you could help even more people by teaching them. And it's scalable, right? And so you have the podcast, of course, and you created Fortress University to create programs to help people to learn how to help themselves.
Yeah, I started Fortress University because, you know, I started Fortress Credit in 2007. And what was happening is people would hire us because they couldn't get the house that they wanted. They couldn't get the promotion at work because 70% of employers check credit. And even though it's illegal for an employer not to hire you or give you a raise because of your credit score, people they don't know how to read credit reports. And so they know a 600 credit score is not as good as an 800. And so they literally will not hire that person because they have a low credit score. And so I started looking at it that people never hire me because they want to. You know, someone goes to Dairy Queen because they want what Dairy Queen has. They go to a car dealership because they want to buy a new car. People come to me because they have to. People don't care what their credit score is at all. They say they do, but they only care about what the credit score gives them. Because if you could get the same financing with a 400 credit score versus an 800 credit score, nobody would care if it was an 800 or a million credit score, as long as they got the same financing. So what I found was they would come to me and I'd fix it, and we wouldn't teach them anything about money, wouldn't teach them anything about credit, and then they'd come back to me. And unlike most businesses, you want repeat customers. I didn't want repeat customers. I want referrals, but I didn't want to fix your credit, Rich, have you go out and get a new house or a new car, and then you screwed that up again and have to come back to me to fix it again. So I started teaching people, and it went from a credit repair company that taught people about money and credit and taxes to an education company that fixed people's credit for free. And that's what the model is now with Fortress University. It is an interactive financial education program that all of my students get free credit repair. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to learn about how to increase my credit score, how to pay little to no taxes, how to write off my children's education, how to set up a tax-free retirement account, how to start a business, etc., they can buy the course, which is also tax deductible. And if they need credit repair, they get that absolutely free. And a lot of times people come to us because they want credit repair, but they get all the education with it. And so that's kind of how it morphed into Fortress University and the education platform versus just strictly credit repair.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you kind of turn the model on its ear. Like, people would ordinarily think that the course would be a precursor towards the services you provide. But basically it's like, well, no, I want you to do the course, and then the services we can provide to you as you need them for free. Very interesting. I've never heard of that model before.
Yeah, I think we're the only one.
Yeah.
We were the very first company to offer paid on results, credit repair. Everybody else out there, even today, you either pay them up front or you pay them a monthly fee, $100 a month for the next 3 years. When you're paying a company a monthly fee, what's the incentive for that company to ever fix your credit? There is none, because the moment they fix it, you stop paying them. And so we wanted to switch it. And so what we did is paid on results. People would literally come to me, give me absolutely no money whatsoever, Rich, not one penny. I would say, I can fix this in the next 90 days. And I'll prove that we're that good that we will start, and I'll bill you in 30 to 90 days from now. And you only pay me if I do what I say I'm going to do. And it worked every single time. And it's worked hundreds of thousands of times. The problem with it, Rich, is the people that hire me generally don't pay their bills on time. And so they would come in, we would fix their credit in 30 to 90 days. They go from a 400 to an 800, and then they didn't pay me either. It was about 50% of them never paid me. So we had to change it a little bit to make sure we actually get paid.
Right.
Unfortunately, now the way the system's set up is, I've been in business now 15 years. I have banks that actually finance all of our education, finance all of our courses, and finance the credit repair as well. So it's pretty cool now. So that I get paid on everybody, and then the bank will finance it for the client, which then helps them rebuild their credit anyway, because now they have a positive trade line reporting on all three bureaus that they're making their payments on time. And as long as they pay the bank, their credit stays in great shape.
Great. And let's talk about your podcast. So, School of Wealth podcast.
Yeah.
What type of people do you have on there, and what do you like to talk about?
You know, I started that in 2010, and it started out as strictly credit education. And then people started asking, my audience started asking for other advice. So now I have a lot of attorneys that come on the show, CPAs, entrepreneurs, and the show is really designed about how to have a wealthy life. And that's why it's called the School of Wealth. And it's not just money. So I've had fitness people on that talk about fitness and diet. I've had yoga instructors come on talking about emotional and mental fitness. And then attorneys and CPAs and other credit experts. And so it's kind of how to have a well-rounded, wealthy life, not just a money-focused life.
Yeah, very cool. And apologize for jumping around here, but back to the credit courses. I like the fact that you actually have a credit course that is taught at colleges. So Credit 101. I think they're teaching it at San Diego State and Temple currently, and you're in negotiations to have it in a few other places. And tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, that was San Diego State had reached out to me a few years ago and wanted me to go and start working for them. And one, I'm not going to move back to San Diego. I lived there before. California is just not my place I would want to live. And so I said, how about you let me turn it into a online? And so I filmed a course the way they wanted it. And now that's being taught to their students as an elective. It's 3 college credits. And that will teach them everything they need to know about credit, how to manage credit cards, how to manage their student loans. So when they get out of college, they're more prepared financially. And even in college, they learn really how the student loans are calculated and how they can use credit cards to pay off student loans early and lots of other things. And then that has now morphed. Temple University, I start teaching there in 2 weeks. And then I'm negotiating with Harvard, Yale, Penn, Pepperdine, Forbes. Forbes reached out to me. I guess Forbes has got an MBA program. So they reached out to me, and then also the Department of Defense. So we're negotiating with all of these guys right now. And really what we're negotiating is the price, what they're going to charge, because I want this to be affordable for people, for students especially. And universities like to make a lot of money. So that's the negotiation is, hey, we need to make sure this is affordable and that people actually do it. Because if it's priced the same way that a lot of these other electives are, I don't think the students will do it. They'd take something else instead. But it's my way of starting to educate people on money and credit. I truly believe that if my brother Zeke, along with another 5,000 people every year that kill themselves that we know because they write it in their suicide notes, if they truly understood how money works and how credit works, it would save a lot of lives. I meet with people. This last week I was in Acapulco and I met a doctor there, and she had just filed bankruptcy. And she was pretty, not upset because she dealt with it, but I could tell she was anxious about what the next 7 to 10 years were going to look like for her. So I started explaining that when you file bankruptcy, that's like your fresh start. You should be excited for your financial future because you get a reset. And what most people think is they think they're going to be in hell for the next 10 years. But once I got done explaining how the bankruptcy works and how it reports, she's super excited. In the next 45 days, we're going to have the majority of those accounts that she had to file bankruptcy on. She's like a lot of people. She got divorced. And because she got divorced, she's now a single mom. The ex-husband's not paying the bills. She couldn't pay the bills on her own, so she had to file bankruptcy. And so now what turned into a nightmare is actually a dream for her because it eliminated all of this consumer debt. She now can use that money to pay off her student loans. And now she's got a very bright future that before would take 20 or 30 years to get out of debt with her student loans and mortgages. I think we'll have it cleaned up in the next 5 to 7 years by just simply understanding how credit works. And so that's part of what we're doing at the universities is teaching people, how money works. When you go to high school and college, they force you to do classes that have absolute no life, not lessons, but there's nothing in life that's going to help you with this.
You mean like your art history class didn't help you to
yeah, and there's other stuff that they're forcing you to learn that
right.
It has nothing, it's never going to help you in life.
Right.
Whereas with the credit education, the schools don't teach us about money and credit. And I believe it's done on purpose, by the way. I think they want us to remain uneducated or ignorant about money and credit and taxes. Give me an example. The average American that makes less than $100,000 a year should pay zero income tax, not one penny. And yet the average American making up to $100,000 a year will pay $30,000 a year in income tax. And they should pay zero, Rich, if they understood the simplest parts of our tax code.
Yeah.
And so the government doesn't want us to know how our taxes are calculated and how the code works, which is super easy, or how credit works. Because if they understood how credit money worked, we wouldn't be throwing billions of dollars into a 401k that rips us off. We wouldn't be paying 30% interest to a credit card, and we wouldn't be doing 30-year mortgages. But that's the way the system's set up, and I want to break that system.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're starting with education. You're starting with young people to help give them the foundation, understanding that will help them to do the best they possibly can in that circumstance. So it's kind of like, you talk about the lives, saving many lives through this and enriching countless lives. I mean, many more people than the lives you've saved are people that lives are enriched by knowing this at an early stage, or knowing it at the right stage, knowing how to do the best for themselves and their family.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And just one other thing I wanted to mention is you finished your third book. It's being edited, and you based it on your 7 days to 740 credit course. And so now that's in the works, and that's getting ready to be published. So how does that feel to have that book finished and have yet another tool almost out there for the public to learn from?
It's really good. My other book, Credit Hacks, you can buy it on Amazon, and we sold out multiple times, and so I just had to renew with Amazon to where they're going to print it and ship it for me, and cost me a little bit more money, but it's worth it. So that way I don't have to keep sending them books. And that book was just a little outdated. There's a couple laws that changed a few years ago regarding student loans, so I wanted to write a new one. So the new one is getting edited right now, and that's something that I think is going to make a big difference for people. They can sit down and over a weekend read this book and truly understand how credit is calculated. And so I break down the 5 areas of a FICO credit score, and how FICO, which is the largest and most trusted credit calculation software out there. They're not the only one, but they're the biggest, and they've been around for 60 years and the most trusted, and they've created billions and billions of scores. And so that way you can look at your credit report, you can learn how to read a credit report, and you can learn why you need credit cards. This is something that fascinates me is people think that they can build great credit without credit cards. Actually, you need 3 credit cards at all times, and you have to use those credit cards every single month in order to have great credit. And if you don't use those credit cards because you don't have them, or you're afraid to use them, you will never have good credit. And part of what I have to educate people on is when you have poor credit, and according to Money Magazine, the average American loses $350 every month due to poor credit. Not bad credit, poor credit. And if you're not using 3 credit cards every month, or if you're overutilizing your credit cards, you're going to have poor credit. So you're losing $4,000 a year. And with inflation as high it is right now, and food and gas and electricity is going to get ready to go through the roof. And here it's super cold in Idaho. I don't know what about New York right now, but our gas prices on our furnace is going to go up. Everything's going to go up. So if you can save $350 a month by just increasing your credit score, it's worth knowing how to do this. And so people think I don't need my credit because I already got my mortgage. I paid cash for my car. But here's what they don't understand, Rich. How much you pay for groceries is dependent upon your credit score. How much pay for gasoline, electricity, cell phone, internet? You pay less if you have good credit than if you don't. I'll prove it to you. If you and I go to California, where it's now $6 a gallon for gas, isn't that crazy?
Unbelievable.
$6 a gallon. If you and I go two separate cars, you pay with your debit card, you pay $6 a gallon. I pay with my credit card, I'm going to pay $6 at the pump, but I'm going to get 5% cash back or 30 cents. So now I'm only paying essentially $5.70 a gallon. It is still outrageous, but I'm saving 5%. Same thing with a gallon of milk. If you and I go into the grocery store, it's $5 for a gallon of milk. You pay with cash or debit card, it's $5. I pay with my credit card, I get 5% cash back. I'm paying $4.50. Does that make sense, Rich?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm saving on my gas, my groceries, my internet, my cell phone, my electricity. Get this, car insurance. You know your car insurance? They pull your credit twice a year, and they base how much you pay a month for car insurance on your credit score. People don't know that. Why do you think a car insurance company like Geico or Prudential or Nationwide, why would they care what your credit score is, Rich?
Like it helps evaluate the riskiness of you as an individual. And I guess that's what they're doing. It's risk pools, right?
They know for a fact that someone with poor credit is more likely to have a car accident or a claim because of their credit score, because they're not sleeping as well. They're distracted. Maybe they lost their job. They're getting harassed by collection companies. They also know that the likelihood of them committing fraud is higher than someone with good credit. I'm not saying that people with bad credit are bad people and dishonest. I'm saying the insurance companies know for a fact that the lower your credit score is, the more likely it is that you will commit fraud or insurance fraud. And so they increase how much you pay every month to offset the cost of what it's going to cost them because they gave you insurance because of your credit score. That's why they check it twice a year. So it's not just how much you pay for interest. It's everything in life is more expensive with bad credit.
Yep. It's fascinating. And I love that you really have dedicated yourself to educating people about this so they could do better for themselves. I want to give a shout out to Sawyer. So Sawyer is Rondi's dog, and that goes with him everywhere. And, wherever Rondi goes, people tend to like Rondi, but they love Sawyer. So shout out to Sawyer. So Rondi, if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they go about doing so?
The easiest way to find me is go to Google and type in Rondi, R-O-N-D-I, Lambeth. I'm on everywhere on social media, every platform as Rondi Lambeth. And you can also go to my website, rondilambeth.com. There's a lot of free information there. You can sign up for the free education where I text it out or I'll email it out on a weekly basis on, credit hacks, why you should never use a debit card, why you should never pay off a car loan early, why you should never pay off a student loan early, things like that. How to pay off a mortgage in 7 years versus 30 years without making extra payments. Remember earlier I said, if you understood how money and credit works, you would not have a 30-year mortgage. You don't need to be a slave anymore. So the best way to find me, just Rondi Lambeth.
Awesome. I love it. I love what you've done in terms of what you've created, the inspiration behind it, and kind of what, all of the different ways you've manifested that mission, created things out there in the world. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast interview. It's
great to be here. I'm glad the last time we were scheduled, I fell. Remember, I fell from 3 stories and
Yes.
shattered my right leg. So I'm glad you gave me a second chance to come on. Thanks for letting me.
Oh,
Share a
yeah,
little bit.
my pleasure. And, and you've made a amazing recovery from that, which is awesome. And of course, I've been waiting for this conversation. I'm glad we got to do it. So thanks again, Rondi. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.